Hi, I'm Eric, and I'm back with another video. Today is January 28th. It's a Wednesday, and I have a topic I want to bring up in relation to this ice controversy, I guess you could call it. That's a mild way of putting it. Seems like the country is we're approaching a civil war because of the extreme emotions that have been generated by this. So I'm going to basically, there's kind of three things that I'm going to talk about here. The first is that this late this morning, I was coming back to my house. I had gone off on an errand, and I stopped in at a local restaurant, which I've gone to for a number of years. And this is it just so happened that the owner of that restaurant was there, and I've bumped into him in the past. We've never really talked much, so I just stopped by and I said, basically, I had this, I had an iced mocha and a 3 egg omelet with peppers, mushrooms, and tomatoes and onions, something like that. And the whole thing cost it cost about I don't know, $7 or something like that. Now depending on where you are, I kind of wonder. You could write in the comments, how much it would cost where you live. So anyway, so there I was, and I saw him, and I said, I just said, you've got, it's just a great restaurant. It's nothing fancy. It's just decent food. It's not gourmet style, but it's very good, and it's reasonably priced. And I said, and you guys, you're in a part of town. You're not like in the kind of yuppified area of Chiang Mai. There's an area of Chiang Mai called Neiman Road, and it's got a lot of kind of boutique shops and in restaurants, and these are they're nice places, but they're kind of a little bit shishy, you might say, and there's a lot of foreigners who hang out there, a lot of Chinese and Americans and Europeans and so on, and it's good stuff, but this guy is just down. It's just sort of like down home American cooking, that kind of thing. So I said, how long has your restaurant been open? He said, well, it's been open for about 20 years. And I just wanted to have something to do. I said, what, tell me more. He said, well, he said, I just wanted just a plain old restaurant. And the thing is, he says, wherever the Americans go, they mess everything up, meaning that the Neiman Haman area is yuppified and fancy and things like that. And he says, I'm not trying to make a huge profit. He says, I'm just trying to make a decent living based on a fair profit. And then he said, we talked a little bit more, and I said, I came to Chiang Mai 20 years ago because I could see what was going on. And he said, yeah, it's a bad situation. And he saw 20 years ago what was going on here. I saw 20 years ago what was going on, and here we are. So that was a very interesting encounter with this guy here in Chiang Mai, Thailand. And on the way back, as I was coming back, I was reminded of a sermon that Reverend Wright gave. And Reverend Wright was the pastor for a Chicago primarily African American church, and he was Mr. Cool, Barack Obama's pastor. But after he gave that sermon after September 11th, September 16th, 2001, and up until that sermon became known, Barack Obama, said he's my pastor. But this sermon is so powerful that Barack Obama fired him. Why? Because the pastor told the truth, and Obama doesn't want you to know the truth. So people say it's Trump, it's Trump, it's Trump, but before Trump, it was Biden, and before Biden, it was Obama. And if you think that Obama or Biden's hands are clean, you are dreaming. Um, Biden was the one who gave the final go-ahead under Obama for the um, coup in 2014 in Ukraine that has precipitated this, what's happened in Ukraine, which is they thought they were going to use Ukraine to destroy Russia. And instead, it's Ukraine that has been destroyed because Russia said, we're not going to put up with you guys bombing civilians in eastern Ukraine. We're coming to their aid. We don't care what you say. We'll take your sanctions and so on and so forth. And the Americans say, okay. And then Biden says, we'll blow up the Nord Stream pipeline in Europe. We're willing to destroy Europe's economy in order to hurt Russia. So it didn't. Trump is, yes, he is what he is, but it did not begin with Trump. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read excerpts from this sermon so that people can get again, for me, it's all about historical context. You have to understand, where did all this come from? Okay, so I'm going to read here, starting, this is an excerpt from it. And Reverend Wright is talking about, he says, he's talking about an ambassador, a white man, says that what Malcolm X said when he got silenced by Elijah Muhammad was in fact true. America's chickens are coming home to roost. So there was this Ambassador Peck. He's an American, white guy, high government official. He's an ambassador. And he was saying things that people didn't want to hear. So here's what, this is Reverend Wright speaking now. America's chickens are coming home to roost. We took this country by terror away from the Sioux, the Apache, the Arawak, the Comanche, the Arapaho, the Navajo. Terrorism. We took Africans from their country to build our way of ease and kept them enslaved and living in fear. Terrorism. We bombed Grenada and killed innocent civilians, babies, non-military personnel. We bombed the black civilian community of Panama with stealth bombers and killed unarmed teenagers and children, pregnant mothers and hardworking fathers. We bombed Gaddafi's home and killed his child. Blessed are they who bash your children's head against the rock. He's quoting from the Bible, talking about the Israelites coming to Palestine back in the day and dashing children's heads against a rock. We bombed Iraq. We killed unarmed civilians trying to make a living. We bombed a plant in Sudan to pay back for the attack on our embassy, killed hundreds of hardworking people, mothers and fathers who left home that day not knowing they would never get back home. We bombed Hiroshima. We bombed Nagasaki. We nuked far more than they killed thousands in New York and the Pentagon, referring to 9/11. And we've never batted an eye. Kids playing in the playground, mothers picking up children after school, civilians, not soldiers, people just trying to make it day by day. He goes on. We supported, this is 2001, we supported state terrorism against the Palestinians and Black South Africans, and now we are indignant because the stuff we have done overseas is now brought right back into our front yards. American chickens are coming home to roost. Violence begets violence, hatred begets hatred, and terrorism begets terrorism. A white ambassador said that, not a black militant, not a reverend who preaches about racism, an ambassador whose eyes are wide open, who's trying to get us to wake up and move away from this dangerous precipice upon which you are now poised. The ambassador said that the people that we have wounded don't have the military capability, these people overseas. And many of the protesters in Minneapolis are most of them are unarmed. And the guy that was just shot, he had not drawn his weapon. And as Judge Napolitano, he's a conservative and a libertarian and a judge, was saying, his First Amendment rights to protest nonviolently. His gun was not drawn. He's a fine person. He was a fine person who has dedicated his life to helping veterans, no less, as an ICU nurse. And he was trying to protect a woman who had just been thrown to the ground by these thugs. And he gets pepper sprayed, pushed to the ground. They say, oh, he's got a gun. And then they shoot him, violating his Second Amendment right to own a gun, which he was perfectly entitled to do. And then the administration people say, oh, what was he doing with a gun? Well, excuse me, but our Constitution says that you can have a firearm as long as it's registered. And he was not threatening anybody with his weapon when he was shot. And this is, I'm talking, this is what a judge who knows the Constitution well is saying about this case. So this is really outrageous that the government is justifying criminal acts against the U.S. Constitution. And I might add that people talk about the Constitution, but again, going back to George Bush, who was the guy behind 9/11 because he refused to pay attention to what was going on in the lead up to 9/11. And we know that is highly questionable, to say the least, what happened with 9/11. But it was George Bush, George W. Bush, who said things would be great if this were a dictatorship and I was the dictator. And he also said the U.S. Constitution is just a goddamn piece of paper. This is 2001, 25 years ago. And now everybody is shocked that this event has happened. And after, it's been estimated that since September 11th, at least 4 million people, Iraqis, Afghanis, people mostly in Asia, have been killed because of U.S. militarism. And then everybody here is shocked, because 2 white people got killed by some government-sponsored thugs. So where have we been for 25 years that we didn't stop that crap from the very beginning 25 years ago? Why weren't people on the streets to complain that the assassination of JFK was done by rogue elements within the CIA who didn't like the fact that their wings were getting clipped? CIA people, they said, where can a red-blooded boy go and create mayhem and get away with it? These are the people who are basically implementing U.S. foreign policy. And the American people are asleep. They have been asleep for years. And this is what we're talking about. So he says, an ambassador whose eyes are wide open, who's trying to get us to wake up and move away from this dangerous precipice upon which we are now poised. That was 2001. Are we on the precipice, or are we halfway down, before hitting bottom and crashing? That's what we're dealing with here. And he says, and we need to come to grips with it. Well, that brings me to the next topic, which is that hopefully, my question is, will the ICE atrocities finally wake people up? And it's a good thing that what I see, it's a good thing that people like Scott Ritter, Republican, Marine, who was raised to hate Soviet people, went to Russia to dismantle the Soviet missile program and realized that Russian people are actually human beings and they're pretty nice people. They're not our enemy. And if you think that Russia's the enemy and they did all these terrible things, you're stupid, because you haven't done your homework to find out what the truth is, the historical truth. That's the problem. And should I be emotional about this? Well, I'm only being emotional because people need to get a little bit of a shock to wake up and understand what's going on. So, but it's a good thing that you have on Judge Napolitano's program. He has people like Scott Ritter. He has people like Douglas McGregor. These are all. He was a combat vet. Both of these guys are combat veterans, but their virtue is that they've seen through the veneer of righteousness of U.S. militarism and realizing, no, our country has a problem. The military is out of control. It needs to be cut back. But Judge Napolitano has people also on like Max Blumenthal or Aaron Mate, these are what I would call anti-left, anti-imperialist left, which is where I classify myself. I consider myself a left person. The capitalist system, as I see it in Wall Street, it is not working for the vast majority of Americans. The economy is like a black hole where the wealth is sucked deeper and deeper into the center and leaving everything else, just flailing about. And so that's why, I'm very concerned about that. But setting that aside, the fact that you have people on the right, libertarian right, these are people, what they understand is there's something called decency, where violence and state violence and terror, all these things, they've got to stop. So this is the one ray of hope. And what I'm hoping is that this moment of outrage because of these two cases, these are like, the Israelis they kill 50 innocent people a day and nobody bats an eyelash. But you have one white woman, who is, and of course it's terrible what happened to her and what's happened to this other fellow, Pretty. It's completely inexcusable, but it's shocking people to realize that, yes, we have a serious problem in this country. And what is happening on the inside is a reflection of what has been going on the outside. I call this endless war abroad and class war at home. So that's the issue that we really need to face. And I'll just kind of leave it at that. I don't need to make a really long video, but I thought that this would be useful as a kind of a history reminder that here was this reverend who is disowned, by the way, by Obama because he told the truth. And Obama, many people were fooled by him. I was not fooled by him because a fellow named Wade Madsen pointed out that both his parents had ties to the CIA, and after his he went to Harvard, and he was the editor of the Harvard Law Journal, but he never even wrote an article for it. And then after that, he went to work for some organization, Business Insights, something, I forget the name of it, but that has shady ties probably to the CIA. He disappears to go to Pakistan. He was probably brainwashed or chipped or something to get him to do what the U.S. government wanted him to do, or the deep state wanted him to do. And when he went to this church to present this image of himself as this cool community organizer, it was all fake. He was packaged like Hostess Twinkies. They look so good on the inside, and there's no nutrition there. So this is the problem with our entire political system. It's a system that's based on fakery and putting people up that look good from the outside, but when you dig down into it, you find out they're deeply compromised. And what are we going to do about it? That is the system that we have. And whether they're Democrats or Republicans, doesn't matter. That's what we need to deal with. So as I say, I will just leave it at that. And again, if you would please support my channel, you can either become a member or at least give it a like or share it, discuss it with your friends. You can get one of my information billboard t-shirts, question everything. The only way you can dig yourself out of this society of lies and and manipulation, this manufacturing of consent and manufacturing of hysteria, is to be able to look at things coolly and calmly and realize, this is what is going on. So thanks again for listening to my rant here. I'm usually a pretty calm person, but I try to spice things up a little bit so that maybe people will pay more attention to my channel. So thanks again for listening, and I will talk with you soon.